I think the goal of sustainability has never really been about healing the planet. Not directly. I think it's been more about trying to catch Roadrunner, this impossible thing to catch. It's been about finding a beneficial response to climate change that also preserves our bubbles of comfort, convenience, security, and privilege. Which is an impossible response because those bubbles are the main drivers of climate change. Which is why most conversations about sustainability are about how to minimize the damage our lifestyles cause, not change it.
When I think climate, not a joke, I think jobs.
Because the lifestyles themselves are pretty non-negotiable. We'll buy less plastic and we'll switch to renewables because those are easy, and that way people can just keep on keeping on. And since ACME is just going to keep sending us a slew of new contraptions every year that promise to keep it all going, nothing changes. And the result is that now, despite our best attempts, we're still harming nature while we try to save nature. We're still trying to help people by exploiting people somewhere else. We'll gladly make a mine of the world if it means we don't have to do our own laundry, or put children to work in DRC for the rare earths and metals we need for our batteries. Do you need new green tech? Well, create an oligarch that rips the heart out of ecosystems all around the world and then strips you of your civil liberties back at home while they're at it. Want sustainable fashion with fabric made of trees because that's climate negative? Then propose an ultra factory in Spain that pushes a whole region farther into extractive monoculture that might destroy millions of hectares of land in wildfires in the process. Basically, we love making superficial changes that promise to heal things while avoiding making the larger, deeper changes that would actually do anything. And I keep getting the image of Wile E. Coyote running on air and not falling, because it's like we believe that as long as we don't look down, we'll be fine. If we just keep living our lives as is, there's a chance we might get to the other side of that canyon completely intact. But realistically, that's not happening. At some point, we're going to fall and it's going to hurt. And the longer we take, the harder it'll be and the more comforts and capacities we're going to lose in the process. And yet, the message still seems to come back, don't look down. Don't recognize that there's nothing under your feet. Trust in systems fundamentally built on the extraction and exploitation of nature and other people to continue providing you with whatever you want. Provided you have the money, of course. Don't notice that the solutions we're pushing are driving us farther out over the cliff. Which, for me, all kind of sums up to mean that we're going to need to step up and do something almost impossible. And that's willingly, graciously, giving up comforts and privilege for the benefit of others. We're going to have to look at family members and say, I'm sorry, we can't do that. We can afford it, but Earth can't. We're going to have to stop chasing Roadrunner and then fall on purpose. And then, hopefully, when it's all done, stop giving ACME all our money. But willingly falling down is a lot easier said than done. And history isn't exactly rich with examples of that happening. What it's filled with are violent and extreme falls that drag way too many people along. So what I'd like to explore for a bit isn't what decisions we make, because I have no idea what the correct decisions here are, but how do we make decisions? Can we, in a way that helps us learn, endure the pain of falling, and then give up on any possibility of catching Roadrunner? And do it in a way that responsibly transitions into something genuinely healthier? Basically, how do we fall? Right now, a lot of our effort goes into keeping ourselves up in the air. Whether unconscious or conscious, we're pursuing goals that continue to create the problems we're trying to solve. We're trying to consume our way to anti-consumption, deal with the consequences of business as usual by preserving that business. So what I think falling would look like here is a change that happens inside of us, a change in the way we make choices. And to be able to make different choices, first, I think it's important to notice some of the patterns that inform those choices. Specifically, what I want to do is to take an exercise created by the Gesturing Towards Decolonial Futures Collective and apply it to the current style and strategies of sustainability, ecology, and conservation. Just keep in mind that the goal here isn't to come up with a solution to these problems. Like, we're not looking for a justification to buy organic or support sustainable initiatives. Those are good things you should do, but this is more of a starting point to help you figure out how to show up in your support for those things. The goal is to be able to notice the subtle motivations and underlying patterns behind our choices, so that eventually we can train ourselves to notice the totality of the effects of those choices. And by the way, before we start, if you think you see me doing any of these things in any of my videos, feel absolutely free to let me know in the comments. It'll probably annoy me, but as long as you remember that I'm human and you're kind about it, it'll be good for me. Probably. So, the exercise is a mnemonic that uses the word circular, and it starts by asking ourselves to notice our drive for continuity. Specifically in this context, in choosing the continuation of existing systems over the continuation of the ecosystems we're a part of. It's asking us to notice when trying to maintain stability in our lives comes at the expense of others, and to consider what our priorities are. Are we trying to reduce the toxicity of our lifestyles just enough to keep them going? Or are we trying to identify opportunities for genuine improvement? Sometimes I think of it like asking where our loyalty lies. Is it to existing human systems, or is it to nature? Given the choice between responding to climate change or harming your economy, for example, which do you choose? Then there's innocence, which is what it sounds like, how we want to think of ourselves as innocent. Because it's really easy to fall into this groove of thinking that what we do is above critique. I know personally, I'm constantly telling myself that what I'm doing is good and I'm part of the solution. While behind that, I'm consistently and unconsciously adding the sentence, so I'm above criticism. And it happens so quick that I don't even notice I'm doing it half the time, because the good that I do gives me the cover to not have to look at the deeper damage that my lifestyle causes. So I don't. Then there's recentering, which is asking ourselves, who benefits from our work? Is it the ecosystem, or is it you within the ecosystem? Is it anyone who's deserving, or is it people who think and believe just like you do? I see it happen a lot with sustainable homesteading projects, especially when people are moving countries, like when Northern Europeans move to Southern Europe, for example. What often ends up happening is that they come with this expectation that getting things done will be just as easy as it would have been back home. And when they realize that the slightly more chaotic way things are done in the South will prevent their plans from going how they'd like, they start struggling. Because the Northern European ethos, which is an American one, privileges certainty above most everything else. And that's not saying Southern Europe doesn't value it too. We do. We're just not as good at it. So just like that, what ends up happening in these projects is that even though they talk a big game about wanting to change how we relate to the world,
and here we address the problems of the world.
When they're actually given the opportunity to change, what their choices tend to reinforce are the obviously better and more structured opinions and entitlements of the way they did things back home. And the result is that they're still keeping themselves at the center of the world, with nature second and other people third. And part of the reason that happens is because of unrestricted autonomy, which is a tendency to elevate the rights of the individual over the rights of the community and nature. Basically, it's asking us to watch out for individualism, for moments when we're holding individual entitlement and individual responsibility over what others might need or be able to do. And we're all guilty of this. It's the most natural thing in the world right now to assume that the main concern when making a choice is how something affects me, or at least my immediate family, and it leaves how our choices affect others as important, but also kind of an afterthought. Because what matters most is my freedom, my ability to take care of myself and my family. And green technology seems to be upholding that. We're not getting what's best for us or the greenest solutions. We're not getting things that develop social fabric. Because if we were, we'd see things like a reemergence of communal wash points to give the village an excuse to get together on a regular basis. And from a sustainability standpoint, that would clearly be the greenest option with the lowest carbon footprint. Because you build it once and it lasts forever. It takes no energy to run, and if we're being honest, you don't even have to build anything. But what we get instead are sustainable washing machines. Because it doesn't quite matter that they keep us isolated and mine all these materials unsustainably. What matters is that our ability to support ourselves as individuals is preserved, and that harm to the planet is minimized. And that focus on the individual, it seeps through to who we look to for guidance as well. Leadership isn't spread out to anywhere there's wisdom. It's not distributed like food throughout the countryside. It's centralized to certain people and places over others. And that kind of relationship to knowledge doesn't leave us looking for nuance or pros and cons or a deeper insight and understanding. It leaves us looking for single solutions to complex problems. And you can see that clearly in an age of polarization when there's good voices in sustainability and bad voices. Oh, Al Gore? Yeah, he's good. I can learn from him. But Jordan Peterson? Oh man, no, bad. Nothing to learn there. We end up appointing gurus and enemies. People who truly know what they're talking about and people who can't say a single intelligible word. And that bleeds into our relationship with authority as well, where since only certain people understand the right way to do things, there's an attempt to centralize expertise to a select group of people who are progressing sustainability goals in the correct way, while ignoring other voices. Like how the trajectory for sustainability is mostly decided by rich countries in the global north, while the insights of poorer countries in the global south are suppressed, or the way that international NGOs working in the global south might actually be harming their ability to stand up for themselves, all while prioritizing and trying to instill northern values. Finally, we're being asked to look for moments when our need for recognition gets in the way of actually doing the work of sustainability. Because sometimes, instead of focusing on what's best for nature, we can curate what's allowed or not based on how it looks, which leaves us making ecologic choices with what's essentially the logic of marketing, which you can see pretty clearly when you look at something like the carbon credit system, for example, which has been mostly used as a way for companies to greenwash their image instead of as a way to actually provide ecosystemic benefit. Okay, so I think the next question naturally becomes, how do we make choices then? What's after ACME? And my answer, as always, is I have no idea. I mean, I know the ways I'm trying, but I don't think that what I do should be what you do. We don't live in the same place, we don't have the same neighbors, the same governments, psychology, ecology, the same native species to work with, the same topography, geology, history, trauma. Whatever ends up working for me isn't going to work for you. It might not even work for my neighbor. What I think matters here is becoming someone who stops looking for easy answers. There can't be a one-size-fits-all approach to this. There won't be an ACME catalog. And I'm kind of using this ACME thing here as like a stand-in for this broad capitalistic force whose goal is to provide you with everything you want and need, and operates on this simplified story of things. Coyote wants Roadrunner. Problem. Create an earthquake to have the earth swallow up Roadrunner. Solution. I need a way to reliably ship parts internationally. Problem. Electric trucks. Solution. Except not really, because running the truck might be carbon negative, but building the truck still brings up 17 more problems. I need a way to source steel, rare earths, aluminum, glass, which are all problems by themselves. Then there's labor, plastic, oil, rubber, machinery, and the machinery that makes the machinery. It's not so simple. Cookie-cutter sustainability shouldn't exist, and any choice we make about everything from how to plant a cabbage to how to make a phone is going to require its own personalized solution. I guess what I'm saying is that instead of modeling sustainability on the overly simplistic patterns of Coyote and Roadrunner, we need something more like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's not just problem solution without really getting to know the problem. It's more about accepting messiness. It's problem, and then learning how to navigate an infinite array of possibilities to actually understand the problem at its core, where we're pushed to learn whatever we need to learn, except that there's no one way things are supposed to be, and at the same time understanding that there's no way to predict what's going to happen along the way. All we can do is slowly become the best versions of ourselves. That version that will go anywhere and do anything if it means we'll be treating the important relationships in our lives with respect and kindness, even when the people around us are being little monsters threatening to destroy the world. Basically, I think the meat of the work for sustainability is internal. It's learning from our falls to accept and then let go of the harmful ways we used to work, so that when we do have a choice in front of us, we can search for answers that at least try to respect the full scope of the challenge. Because we understand that no choice exists in a vacuum. Every choice we make affects the convoluted, complex array of random relationships that exist between anything and everything in nature. So when we notice that our choices might actually be hurting nature, we can stop, or at the very least, ask ourselves, why do we even want to catch Roadrunner to begin with?